So here goes my reintroduction. Hi, I am Larissa. I am a survivor that's starting a podcast by a survivor for survivors. And I will say this is a podcast network that's going to have a couple different shows. One, of course, is called Awaken to Purpose. Welcome to the Awaken to Purpose podcast, a podcast by survivors for survivors of childhood sexual trauma and chronic illness warriors. Here, we get honest about healing, transformation, and awakening to our God-given purpose. Hi, I'm Larissa, mother, author, nonprofit founder, survivor empowerment coach, and your host. Around here, we shift mindsets, change the narrative, and create a new norm from a faith-filled lens. So let me ask you, have you ever wished someone would speak more openly about the complexities of healing? Ever longed for a space that sees you without judgment or performance? You are not alone. This podcast is anchored in Revelations 12:11 and Romans 12:2. We're breaking silence, reassigning shame, and healing forward. Join me. Let's journey to free and awaken to purpose together. Father, in the name of Jesus, I invite you into this space right now. This feels kind of awkward and weird, but in my wanting to be obedient today, amid all of the trials and the tests and swollen, bloodshot red eyes that hurt, I invite you in this space right now. Speak to me, through me, help whatever it is that I have to say, Lord God, for it to flow in such a way that it gets to the heart of who needs to hear this and who needs to be a part. Help me to keep my mind stayed on the task at hand, to say what needs to be said, as this is yet another beginning. Just invite you to be in this vehicle with me in this present moment, and to use me. I avail myself to you in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Okay, so we're doing this. Hi. Hello. It's been a while. It's been a minute. Actually, it's been way more than a minute. It's been a few minutes, some hours, some days, some weeks. It's been a couple of years since I've done this, where I've actually sat down to record. And I want to be very honest about what I'm feeling now. I'm feeling a bit timid, and that's for several reasons. In full transparency, I'm a bit scared. I'm nervous. And if you see me looking down some, I really am going to look down because I need to get some points out. But yeah, I'm being called back to this space, a space that I thought I would never come back to. My name is Larissa, and I am the founder of a nonprofit called Journey to Free. And how Journey to Free came around, Journey to Free was birthed from my pain, something I will get into later. But today, I just wanted to walk in obedience and to sit down and to film this. This is the start of the next installment of what I know now to be God has been calling me back to. So I started Journey to Free years ago. It was one of the most difficult periods of my life. I was going through a court process of taking my childhood abuser to court. And again, we'll get into all of that later. But during that process, I had an unction, a feeling just the same like I've been having, in all honesty, for the past couple of years, where I needed to do something. First, it started out with just my heart feeling, I thought it was just me, wanting to do something to help the other girls and the women that I had met and I had seen, some of which I never exchanged words with, but during the court process, other young ladies, other children, young girls and women were going through the same thing. And I didn't know what I wanted to do or how I could help them. But during the process there, I started having this yearning, this deep-seated desire to assist. Didn't know what it was going to look like. But long and short of the story, from that, and after finding out that that was just God's nudge, his call, calling me to a space to help. And I did. Of course, just like I've been doing now, I went kicking and screaming because I had no idea what I was doing and how it was going to come together. But by his grace, he was able to help me to not just start, to launch the foundation, but to do some work. And in that process, I was speaking about my story and helped a few women, and girls along with their healing process as well. But somewhere along the line, I stopped. I just stopped. And there's several reasons why I stopped speaking again. And I went, what seemed like I went into hiding. And that's what I thought, that's what I felt. But now being on the other side of this is understanding that it wasn't my running and going into hiding. I needed to. It was a season that came to an end. God needed to birth another person out of this season of isolation and withdrawal. And so there's a lot of things that happened during that 4-year process. It's been a while. I haven't been on camera per se, but I didn't stop doing the work. I didn't stop, not on myself, and I didn't stop doing the retreats that we were doing. I didn't stop any of that part of it. I literally just stopped this bit. And again, because several things happened. And we will go over that again in another video. But what's calling me back to this space? Let me say first and foremost, God, because on my own, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to be honest. It's challenging. It's challenging to be on camera and to talk and to do all of that for me, because it's not necessarily my personality. But God's been calling me back to this space. It's been from about 2021, 22, somewhere around there. I'll insert date and time because I had that written down. But let me say something about that. In the moment that God was calling me back and telling me to pivot, it's not even a pivot, it's the next installment of what I'm being called to. And that I didn't know what it would look like then. I still don't know, to be honest, what it will look like now. But I've tried everything in my power to avoid it for over 3 years. Family, friends know that I've done everything to avoid it. And I thought I was agonizing over it because I thought I was just being disobedient, and to some extent, yes. But overall, I also am understanding now more than ever that sometimes when God gives you a word, sometimes when he downloads something in you, it's not necessarily for you to do immediately. And that's what I didn't understand. So he had to develop some other things in me, because I will be the first to tell you that in all of the things that I've done, and I've done a few things, I'm now able to accept that, because before I'm just like, I'm not doing anything, da, da, da. All of that, I also was aware that I was performing a lot. I was performing healing, performing because it made me feel good about myself. But at my core, there was still a lot of hurt. There was still a lot of pain. There's still a lot of things that I did not understand that I needed to get back to. God needed me in somewhat of seclusion and isolation to be able to work some things out of me and to work some things in me and all of that. So that has been what I've been doing for the past few years. But it's been a collective of doing personal work, being afraid, I'm not going to lie, and then also falling victim to my own story. And what I mean by that is, as much as I know I was being called to certain things, I was still thinking about everyone else attached to my story. And it forced me to go quiet again. I stopped talking again to try to protect others, but God went into silence again. And in a season where I could honestly say that it felt like I lost me. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't lose me, because I didn't even know who I was. So I was performing healing, performing to get by, because it's what I had known. It's what I became accustomed to. It's what I learned from I was a child to just do. Just do. I had to do for others. I didn't know how to do for myself, but I was just doing. And so even after I started my journey of healing by speaking and speaking out boldly and loudly, I and accomplished a lot, and freedom started to heal in that. Let me explain, because my speaking out, it healed a part of me. It healed me in the sense that I was now able to speak boldly about what my experience was and not have any reservations about it. I was able to reassign the shame and not have any inhibitions about telling people my story and what transpired in my childhood and all of that. However, after years of doing that, of telling the story, and yes, helped some people along the way, helped a few girls, women, some men, I went silent again. And there's a few things that led up to that, but one of the main things was that even amid that healing, my getting past that, there was still a lot that I was struggling with. One main thing, I realized I did not know who I was. I had lost my identity. I say that with caution, because losing my identity is one thing. Not even being able to have an identity, because the abuse started so young, right? At 3 I started to get sick, and it was at 5 years old when I was first violated. And so whatever happened over those years, I did not have an identity. My identity was survival. My identity was the trauma. My identity was doing whatever I had to do to not just police people, but to help people, to keep people secret. That was my identity. And so I realized in this season, or the season God had me, where I had to be healing all of these things, is that I healed from some things, but there was so much more that needed to be healed, because I didn't want to perform healing anymore. I was performing out of just survival, because as I said, that's all I knew how to do. So God had to sit me down, and how it happened, we will get through all of that. But yeah, I folded myself up like a chair and I went away. I really did. I went silent again, but not necessarily to protect me. I had things that needed to be healed and needed to address, but once again, I started to protect others as well. And when I say that, I'm talking about other people that are tightly a part of my story. I'm bucking and shuffling here because it's been a while. But anyhow, one of the things that I really had to realize is that I could no longer live the way I was living. It was literally killing me. Inside, I was dying, and I no longer wanted to die. I mean, after all, I had attempted 3 times before, and that never happened. I didn't want to feel the pains anymore. I wanted something different. I didn't want to perform healing. I didn't want to do any of that. I am the person that says journey to free, right? I wanted to know what freedom felt like, and there was still so much that was keeping me bound. Of course, I didn't know, and I wasn't going to learn it overnight. It's a process that I had to unpack. A lot with God and a lot with therapy, and just the work that I've been doing in that time. So still, during that process, God have been working on me. He needed me to pivot again, to start another portion of this process. And that is why I'm here, because I'm starting again. I am starting again, and what this looks like is, it is going to be a continuation of Journey to Free, but I'm here to announce I'm launching a podcast. So in full transparency, I am going to read this. It captures the essence of what this podcast is going to be about. So the mission and why I'm here now is that she's done hiding. We're ready to stand up now, ready to have the hard conversations. This right here, this podcast, this moment is my pivot. It's the shift that needed to happen. Right? I am done holding my scars like secrets. I am done shrinking to make other people comfortable. And I pause there because I'm saying that and taking that in at the same time, especially the ones who won't even do their healing work. I've worked too hard. God has had to put up with me for too long for me to continue hiding and covering and shielding folks that will not do their healing work. So today, I'm saying yes. Not at all because I'm fearless, but because I've got a deeper fear now. I've got a fear that this fear is what's pulling me. It's driving me. It's the driving factor behind why I have to do this. Because I fear not doing what God has been calling me to do. I fear not speaking up and speaking out for the others. I fear being disobedient. I fear that if I don't, I'll be walking in rebellion. I fear that disobedience and rebellion, if I don't do what it is that He has sent me here to do, is going to end up resulting in something that, listen here, I've been through too much literal hell in my life on this side of heaven, on this side of earth, to experience anything else on the other side. I'll be darned. So the fear now is a fear of reverence, a fear of not letting people know how good, how patient, how kind, how gracious, how loving. Did I say patient already? How merciful God is, just from me and my experiences with Him, and how He has held me, how He has kept me, how He has saved me and continues to save me. I fear not doing my part, playing my part in telling others that I am the girl that low-key resented, dare I say, hated God. I didn't even realize it. But even in that, He was so merciful and kind to extend my life enough to get to the point where, however He did it for me to realize this, He did it. And He didn't allow me to succumb to all of the traumas, the hurts, the pains, all of the close calls, the death calls. He saved my life. So I do this now, not just in my trying to be obedient, but honestly because of my love for God. It's a wonky, weird type of love, because you learn from my story. It's something I'm walking and working out in real time, because I didn't know that. I am learning how to love God. I loved Him, yes, but it was, as I said before, it was a fragmented, a distorted kind of love. Like I said, I loved Him and I felt like I loved Him, but that deep knowing, the love that's unconditional, that's where I'm at now. My love before was conditional. So that's the difference. Not talking about the fact that healing is indeed possible. Because in all honesty, my call and my reasoning for wanting to do this is to talk about how much I've been on this healing journey. That there's a difference between healing and being whole. And being whole, getting to that place, requires God. You cannot get there without God. So that is a part of the reason I am doing this, because the fear and my love wanting to do this. So with that said, I wanted to talk about the podcast itself. It's called the Awaken to Purpose podcast, but I also want to be real about the awakening. It took a lot of aching and pain and heartache before I got to the awaken. Before the purpose, there was the pause. Y'all can attest to that, those of you that have known me. There was the pause. There was the pain and the processing of the pain before the awakening came. And I'm just doing this to give you context, a little backstory as to how we got here. Somewhere in the process, as I said, God told me this was where I was going next, but it wasn't just a regular podcast just to get on and yet, because again, I don't want to do that. It was a cry being answered. It was a call being answered. It's a podcast that's anchored in Revelations 12:11 that says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. This podcast will be my testimony. And it will be your space too for your testimony. This podcast is also anchored, these two scriptures, Revelations 12:11 and Romans 12:2. Romans 12:2 says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." That season of withdrawal, that season of isolation, my season of silence, that's all that was happening in that season. My mind has been renewed. My mind is being renewed. I'm renewing my mind daily. Not me, but God that's working through me. So I've been transformed and I'm transforming, right? And the call is to help others to get to this place as well. We're going to be doing this together. Trust and believe. This is not just Larissa being here to talk about Larissa. Because quite frankly, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But yeah, there is no transforming without or renewing our minds, without reclaiming our stories or rewriting what actual freedom looks like. And that is what the Awaken to Purpose podcast is about. So now, it's the reintroduction. So here goes my reintroduction. Hi, I am Larissa Roan. I am a survivor that's starting a podcast by a survivor for survivors. And I will say this is a podcast network that's going to have a couple of different shows. One, of course, is called Awaken to Purpose. The other will be It Is Sweet to Heal, where there will be other co-hosts with me, my sister being one of them, and this lady that you guys will meet and love, I promise. She is in her 70s, Miss Regina Endlets. She is a friend. She's also a survivor of incest. And we have bonded on so many levels. She's been more than a support, a mentor, everything. And she will be a part of that show as well. There's going to be a segment where it's just me, you, the Word of God, talking about how we heal, what this actually looks like. There's going to be a couple different pieces to this podcast. And so I just wanted to mention that early on out. I also want to say who this podcast is for. Again, it's for survivors of childhood sexual abuse and other traumas, for chronic illness warriors, survivors from the West Indian Caribbean community. Because child, we need it. We want to help survivors, especially the ones who still feel silenced, who still, they're holding and harboring, housing shame, and those that are spiritually wounded. There's a lot of different pieces to all of this, and we have to heal from all of it. And by the grace of God, we will. We're going to step out of performing healing into healing, real healing, and being truthful about what it looks like. We're going to be having conversations about all of it. And you're welcome to tell us what you want to what you want us to talk about. But I want to be very clear. Yes, I'm looking down at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. Let me be very clear. I am not a professional. I am not licensed by any means. I don't teach from textbooks. I don't have any kind of formal training in that avenue. I kind of have a couple of certifications, but along this line, but it was for something else in the sense of the advocacy piece. But outside of that, no. All I have is my lived experience. All I have is my testimony, again, which ties Romans 12:11 to this pod. It's the anchor of this pod. And as I said before, that is what I'm going with. That is what God downloaded. That is what I am choosing to listen, to trust, and to anchor all of this in. That is what I'm standing on and I'm moving. So I want to let you know that in full transparency. I didn't know what I was doing years ago when I started Journey to Free. I still don't. And here God is asking me to launch, to step out on a whim and to do this too. Awaken to Purpose, where we're going to be talking and having the conversation. Let me be very clear there too. In addition to not having all of the training and all of that, but my lived experience, I don't know the technical parts of this either. So we're going to do this together. It's going to be messy. It's going to be crazy. But with the help of God, it's going to get done. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not technologically savvy, so you're not going to get the perfect videos. I'm going to show up on camera sometimes looking a hot mess because I'm still working through this. I still am. However, who I'm doing this for, and this I want to read because I don't want to forget it. I wrote this down, and I wrote this down a long time ago, and the list, I keep adding to the list. So I'm doing this for the woman who still flinches at just the very word touch. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for the man that was abused violently, abused in ways that you have never told a soul about, but you're still out here doing it, getting it done, performing, living a life that, on one hand, you're wearing that mask boldly, but at nights, you too are suffering in silence. In the daytimes, you too are getting triggered and having flashbacks. You too are having images plague your minds, but you don't feel safe. You don't have a place to go to. You don't have a community, a brotherhood. You don't have support. I'm doing this for you too. I'm doing this for the girl who's protecting her abuser, to keep the family together. I'm gonna move on because, I'm doing this for the adult who's still battling demons. I'm doing this for the child that he used to be. I'm doing this for the child that still lives within me. I am doing this for the child that is me. I know that's not grammatically correct, but I know what I said. I'm doing this for the little girl, my little girl. I'm doing this for that child that still needs to be heard, seen, validated, protected, loved without condition. So I just want to end this. There's a lot of other people, and I will touch on them as we go. But let me say this clearly. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not too old. I'll say that again. You are not too old. You too are worth fighting for. And most importantly, you don't have to do this alone. So with that said, this space, Journey to Free, presents the Awaken to Purpose podcast. This space, this place, the pod, the nonprofit, all of it was created with you in mind. So the Awaken to Purpose podcast, I am your host, Larissa Roan, fragmented and healing, broken and whole, hurting, not so much anymore. But my point is, two things can be true. So I'm healed and I'm healing. Healed from certain aspects, still healing. And I'm going to stop right there. Not because we're done, but because some conversations need space to breathe. So sit with that. Feel what comes up. And we'll pick back up next time. Listen, Defiant Disruptors, if this episode hit your gut, spirit, chest,
Good. That means it's time to put silent suffering to rest. If it challenged you, stretched you, or gave you language to what you've been carrying, don't just scroll. Share it with someone who needs to reassign the shame they've been burying. Like, subscribe, leave a review, because around here, we dismantle lies, conquer fears, we speak and renew our minds, because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimony. We refuse old narratives that keeps us in disguise. This is bigger than a podcast. This is a movement. So until next time, shift the mindset, change the narrative, and let's create new norms. Join me as we journey to free and awaken to purpose together. From my heart to yours, Larissa.